and you don't seem to understand. A shame you seemed an honest man.
Yo, it's Hannah, and this is a very exciting video I get to make. So, we are doing the Lovecraft Country road trip. We are hitting all the H.P. Lovecraft tourism spots on route from Maine to New York City. So I said my farewells to Maine yesterday. It was a very bittersweet moment, but I've wanted to do this since 2020 when I read the book Lovecraft Country. I'm a huge H.P. Lovecraft fan, so this is very special that I get to do this and see these places and make this video. So we are back on the road, me and Dune, and we are going to take you to all the eldritch locations from H.P. Lovecraft's most famous works and spots in real life where H.P. Lovecraft resided. So come along and let's explore Lovecraft Country together. The first stop on the tour was Newburyport, Massachusetts. This town inspired the town of Innsmouth and Shadow over Innsmouth, where a man moves to a small coastal town in Essex County, Massachusetts, only to discover a strange fish-worshipping cult. Notable landmarks from this story are the public library that housed the historical records for Essex County and the Historical Society, where character Anna Tilton curates the mysterious Innsmouth tiara display. This town was so cute and quaint that I really can't believe that it used to be such a drab ghost town in Lovecraft's day. Okay, so we are in Marblehead. This is briefly mentioned in H.P. Lovecraft's short story, The Festival. The Festival is a Yuletide kind of Christmassy horror story. This guy goes to a small town of Kingsport, which is loosely based off Marblehead, and discovers the town is not quite right. But anyways, we are at Old Burial Hill, which is mentioned in that story. It's one of the hot spots to check out in this quaint little seaside town, and it is very, very ancient. Aside from H.P. Lovecraft, it also was where they shot the cemetery scenes in Hocus Pocus, and it is one of the most beautiful and oldest cemeteries in Massachusetts, so I'm very excited to walk up here and check it out. I don't think people are too happy with my van being parked, but there's no real parking lot for this cemetery, so everyone is just kind of pulled up on the side of the road. And the roads are also extremely narrow, and it's unfortunate because nobody has as big of a car as I do. And I've been sitting in my car for a second, so I think people are walking by and looking at me with anger. So we are gonna go walk up the stairs and check this beauty out. I'm so excited. In Lovecraft's story, The Festival, the old burial ground is based off Old Burial Hill. This graveyard was home to the first meeting house, and it claims to have up to 600 Revolutionary soldiers buried here, most without headstones, and several early pastors of the town. There were lots of interesting gravestones here, and upon further research, I learned that these symbols reflected religious expression during the Puritan period. Skulls and crossbones represented mortality, winged skulls represented the soul's release or memento mori, hourglasses symbolized the passage of time, and cherubs represented innocence. Some graves even featured symbols like anchors to display the past person's profession, such as sailor. I absolutely love learning stuff like this when I'm checking out an old cemetery. My next stop was St. Michael's Church. This church is super old. It was made in 1714, but more importantly to this video, this is the meetup spot in the festival for all the cultists. They like to hang out at this church and do their thing. Lovecraft expressed that his first visit to Marblehead was the most powerful single emotional climax experience during my nearly 40 years of existence. And while I'm only 25 and wouldn't go that far, this town definitely left me feeling inspired with all of its historical buildings and coastal whims. We are here in Providence, Rhode Island today. This is the hub for the Lovecraft Country road trip. This is where H.P. Lovecraft spent majority of his life. Born, raised, died here. He moved to New York for a couple years, but ended up coming back here where his final home is. His grave is in Swan Point Cemetery, so we're gonna check that out, as well as all 4 of his homes that are here. Right now we're parked outside of his birthplace home. Also on this street is his late childhood home, and then we have the house that he spent a lot of years in, where he wrote most, if not all, of the Cthulhu mythos. And then finally his last home before he passed on. There are so many Lovecraft tourism spots here, especially in the College Hill area. I heard that the Lovecraft store, yes, there's a Lovecraft store. I'm super excited. But I heard the store has maps for your own self-guided walking tour. Hopefully those are in there when I check out the store after it opens, because I don't even know where to start, and I'm sure there's like a smart walking route to take where you can kind of hit everything in an orderly fashion. But let's just check out the city and hit some sweet spots today. Okay, we acquired our map as well as some other things. I got this for Caleb. He's been wanting to read this book. He has been getting into Philip K. Dick, and the guy, when I bought this, he said that this is the best one, so I guess Caleb's got good taste. So that's for his birthday. I got this for me, which I also was told this is good taste, but maybe they just want me to buy stuff. I was saying that I do kind of judge a book by its cover, and the guy said that that's a good thing to do in this case because the book really feels like its cover. So I'm excited to read this. It's short, so it's another nice light read after Salem's Lot. But it says, after a stranger leaves him a secluded property, Drifter Rusty finds himself the caretaker of a massive tooth-filled mouth in the ground, and it's hungry. Postcard for Shadow over Innsmouth. And Cthulhu Providence sticker. Yeah, but this map is really good. It has descriptions on the back and a key below, and also a list on the side for the actual map graphic. We are going to do 3, 4, and 5 first. We're skipping 1 and 2 because I just don't think that they're that important on the walking tour, and there are 34 stops, so I figured we'd park by 3, 4, and 5 first. 1 and 2 we'll pass. Okay, real quick, I'm going to give a brief synopsis of the works we'll be referencing in this video. There's only 4. Firstly, we have Call of the Cthulhu, of course. The character Francis Wayland Hurston begins to go through his dead uncle's things and discovers notes and accounts of a mysterious cult that worships Cthulhu, an ancient monster who sleeps in a sunken underwater city while their dreams are influencing reality. Next, we have the case of Charles Dexter Ward. Charles Dexter Ward becomes obsessed with his distant ancestor, who is allegedly a wizard, and attempts to learn and duplicate his ancestor's accomplishments. Upon doing so, he is faced with a horrifying discovery. Next, we have The Haunter of the Dark. This was Lovecraft's last known written story, and it follows Robert Blake, a young writer with an interest in, you guessed it, the occult. He discovers an abandoned church with a sinister history involving a cult and an ancient artifact that summons a monster that can only venture in darkness. And lastly, we have The Shunned House. The narrator and his uncle are fascinated by an old abandoned house and the sickness and death that follow those who have inhabited it for the last century. They decide to investigate this uber strange house to see what's really going on. Okay, have fun. Enjoy the video. We are starting off at the Providence Bank. However, in the case of Charles Dexter Ward, this building is the home of a character named Joseph Brown, who is an op against that distant relative that Ward is so obsessed over. This building right here is where the townsmen of Providence all met up and gathered to determine what measures they needed to take against this alleged wizard in the case of Charles Dexter Ward. This absolutely stunning building is mentioned in both The Shunned House and the case of Charles Dexter Ward. And apparently in real life, there is actually an H.P. Lovecraft bronze bust in here, which sadly I didn't know about, so there's no clip of that. But yeah, not only did H.P. Lovecraft dig this place, so did Edgar Allan Poe. He visited here with Sarah Helen Whitman back in the day, and the library owns a copy of an anonymously published poem by him called La Lune. H.P. Lovecraft's final home used to sit right here until they up and relocated it so Brown University could put this art building here. These are the Van Wickle gates at Brown University, and there's a famous picture of H.P. Lovecraft sitting right outside these gates because he always intended to go to Brown University, but you're not really paying tuition writing stories, so little broke boy never made it that far. This library houses the largest collection of H.P. Lovecraft manuscripts and letters in the world, as well as human-bound leather-skin books, both of which I asked to see, and the leather-skin books are no longer for show at all because they are so delicate, and the H.P. Lovecraft manuscripts and letters are appointment in advance only, sadly. Here in College Hill is H.P. Lovecraft Memorial Square, which, what do you know, houses the H.P. Lovecraft Memorial. This is where H.P. Lovecraft's final home was relocated to, and he lived here in 1933 until 1937 when he passed away. And man sticks to what he knows time and time again, so his character Robert Blake in The Haunter of the Dark also lived in this home. This church right here sits at one of the highest points in all of Providence, Rhode Island, and it is mentioned in the case of Charles Dexter Ward as kind of like a parallel to the motif of a cult that's going on in that story. This house is absolutely killing it with the Halloween decorations, and it is just so beautiful. Goddamn. But this is the address for Charles Dexter Ward's house in the story. This little oddly shaped house right here is H.P. Lovecraft's most lived-in home and where he made majority of his most popular works. In the case of Charles Dexter Ward, this is referred to as the little white farmhouse that his nurse wheels him past. And the Halsey house is the Ward house in the story. And the Halsey house in real life, like when Lovecraft lived there, was notorious for actually being haunted. So a lot of people think that Charles Dexter Ward is actually loosely based off this guy named William Lippitt Maron who lived in the Halsey house. Apparently there's a lot of parallels between the two, so I think that's kind of interesting. This stunning park with equally stunning views is where H.P. Lovecraft would sit his ass down and write away, do his thing, and I can see why. It's a great place to chill. It's also mentioned in Dexter Ward briefly. From here on out, I'm going to shorten it to that because I'm tired of saying the whole thing. This church is referenced in both the Shunned House and Dexter Ward, and in real life, allegedly, the ghosts of Lovecraft and Edgar Allan Poe haunt this graveyard because I guess they just like to chill out there. I don't know. I didn't see them while I was there. I can't say for sure. This one has nothing to do with Lovecraft, but it's on the map, so I'll go ahead and shout it out. This house right here belonged to one of Edgar Allan Poe's girlfriends before he married his 14-year-old first cousin. This is who he'd hang out at that library with. The house with 3 names. The John Mauney house, the Stephen Harris house, and the Shunned house from the Shunned House. And it also serves as the inspiration for the famous poem, The House. In the Shunned House, there's a character named Dr. Whipple, and this is one of the locations that it is disputed might be where his home is based off of. And my bad, but I did not get a clip of the other location because I just didn't think this one was very important. And Dexter Ward, the alleged wizard, conveniently wins the lottery, and that finances this building right here. The brick schoolhouse hosted both school and town meetings back in the day and is now home to Providence's Preservation Society. But in Dexter Ward, this was another one of those buildings that the alleged wizard funded with his lottery winnings. And you turn around and there's another property that alleged wizard financially assisted. But in real life, the apprentice to Benjamin Franklin, John Carter, he published the Providence Gazette and Country Journal here. And here's some apartments that H.P. Lovecraft absolutely hated. He described them as wretched, ultra-modern apartment house with all urban sophistication. Whatever the fuck that means. This building was once the Horace B. Knowles funeral home, and this is where the funerals for H.P. Lovecraft and his aunt were both held. The Fleur de Lis Studio is hands down the coolest building in all of Providence, Rhode Island, and it serves as the home for Henry Wilcox and Call of the Cthulhu. Fun fact about this house, there was a Providence newspaper columnist named Bertrand Hart, and he used to live in that house. So when he read the story, he was like, oh, hey, I used to live there. And then he wanted to make this like fake rivalry with Lovecraft over it. So he wrote in his column that he was going to send a ghost to H.P. Lovecraft's house at 3 a.m. And then Lovecraft went on to write a poem 3 a.m. that night about sitting up and waiting for the ghost. And then Hart published it. So they were just kind of like buddies after that. It was cute. This is the oldest Baptist church in all of America, and it is also the church in Dexter Ward where the wizard marries Eliza. And the last stop on this tour is, of course, Swan Point Cemetery, so we can pay our respects to H.P. Lovecraft's grave, but don't pay too much respect because he was kind of a horrible person and insanely racist. Anyways, on that note, thank y'all so much for watching if you made it this far, and I'll see you in the next one.